Yeah, that's
Alrighty, wonderful. So, hello and welcome everyone to the 2020 CTF Draft Teams Tournament live draft. This is your host, Bosuke here, and I'm joined by my other fellow CTF compatriots here.
Hello, I am Trevor.
I am Hadishly.
And I'm BM5.
And we're all here to bring you this very special event. This is something that's never been done before, but now that we have this wonderful CTF Match Spotlight studio, we are very happy to be able to bring you the draft here for the Draft Teams tournament, or at least the first 8 rounds of it over this next couple of hours. So with that in mind, we've got a few things to run through before we get to announcing our draft picks, which are being selected live right now. So let's get started. We've got 8 different leaders for this draft pick tournament on 8 teams. So let's briefly go over those. In order, let's start with the first leader who's going to be picking today. That's going to be someone who's relatively new to the team scene, I think it's fair to say, but also the leader of one of our official teams, Bar 1234.
Yeah, Bar's a good leader coming into this draft round. Probably a surprising one for some as a newer player, but looking forward to seeing what he picks for today.
Yep. Our second leader as well is someone who's not currently a team leader, but has started a number of teams in the past. It's currently a fellow teammate of mine on Team Annihilation, and that would be Rejected. He'll be picking second in the draft. Then third on the list is going to be one of our 2020 CTF tournament champions, and something of a legendary memer, I'm told, as well as a relatively strong player in his own right. It's going to be Azel. After Azel, with our 4th pick in the draft, we're going to have one of the council members of Team Citrix, definitely a longtime CTF veteran. Although he has not been a team leader in his own right, he's definitely very experienced with the game, and we're excited to see how it does. It's going to be Wolfie98. Then after Wolfie, we're going to be going to one of the most terrifying pyro mains in this tournament, another 2020 CTF Teams Tournament champion, and of course, a fellow who some had speculated otherwise to be the number 1 pick in the draft. That's going to be Chewy. Then we're going to get to our final 2 leaders. We're going to be going to a CTF moderator and one of the main leaders and strategists for Olympus. It's going to be Food Court with the second to last pick. And lastly, we're going to be rounding things out with the longtime leader of Team Annihilation and one of the fellows who's been doing a lot more of the leader pick PPMs lately, perhaps in preparation for this event. That's going to be Miski.
I'd also like to mention, we forgot to say Dave as one of the leaders.
Oh my goodness, of course.
He is going to be the 5th pick, I believe.
Yes.
For this tournament.
4th pick, rather. 4th pick.
Yes, usually 4th pick.
Yes, Dave, who was recently the leader of Ad Fundum and has since moved on to Delta Force, starting up with a new team after the 2020 Teams tournament. So it'll be interesting to see how he does as well. Now, we do have a bit of a unique map pool for this tournament, which I'll have for you in a second. But additionally, we do have a different format than some people might be used to for this draft. We're going to be doing what's called a snake draft. The concept may be familiar to you fine folks if you've done fantasy football before. What that means is that the first 8 picks are going to go in order from Bar to Miski. But then after that 8th pick, the order is going to reverse, and Miski will get the 9th pick before we go back to the 16th pick in Bar. And we're just going to keep following that order down as we clear out each pick. Now, for the map pool, this is something that we've deliberated on a little bit, but the idea, at least in concept, was to get both maps that had been in the previous tournament pool that people would be comfortable with, as well as a few that haven't really been played as much and that are a little bit newer to a rotation. So we've got some returning maps in Blackout, Pagodas 3, Valley of Ruin 4, and Forest of Rivals 1. And then we also have a series of maps that haven't been played before in tournament, or at least not all that much, in Slate 1, Harvest 1, Park Life 1, and Castle Caverns 6. So definitely a healthy mix of maps in there. It's also worth noting that 4 of the 8 maps that are in the tournament pool this time around are 5-cap maps. So, with all that in place, I'd like to remind everyone again that the draft order is going to be Bar 1, 2, 3, 4, Rejected, Azel, Dave, Wolfie, Chewy, Food Court, and then Miski for the first round. I think we've got everything underway. We've just had our first picks come in. So with all of that in mind, let's get right into the drafting. Our first pick for the tournament from Bar 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to be G. Henry.
I don't think there's any surprise there with picking the most notable Pyro main on the server. I think Pyros should have been the first pick, but as we will come to see shortly, that was not the case.
All right, and of course, G. Henry, definitely a relatively well-known player, currently plays Pyro, as well as a few other offense classes for the Crusaders, so definitely interesting to see there. Any thoughts on how Bar might move on from that pick?
I think
he'll probably just go to. Oh, sorry, Patty.
No, you're good. I was just going to say I think Bar's going to continue to solidify defense. I think that's what a lot of these leaders are going to do.
Definitely.
Try to go for defense first and then pick up the offense in the later rounds.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe the insta-kills, archer mains, assassin mains, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So with that in mind, let's move on to our second pick, which has just recently come in. This is one that I think shouldn't be a surprise to too many people as well. This is going to be from Rejected. And Rejected is Rejected's pick with the second pick of the 2020 CTF Draft Teams Tournament draft is going to be Recovs.
Yeah, again, probably not too surprising that Recovs is this early on in this draft pick. He's a very valuable member to be having on as a massive defense flex. He can play a lot of classes on defense, so I think that's a wise choice from Rejected to get him early on.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
A very good ninja. One of the best archers as well, to be honest, in my opinion. I think that's a very, very good pick early on.
Yeah, someone who can be good at everything they do is, invaluable to a format like this.
Okay, moving right along here. We've already got our third pick in, this time from Azel. We're moving along quite quickly in this. With the third pick of the draft, Azel has selected a known multi-classer, but best known for their ninja and assassin defense. It's going to be Chickdee.
Once again, no real surprises here. Very, very good player, and one of Azel's friends, I know, so I don't think there's any shock there.
Yeah.
Already looking to be a pretty terrifying potential ninja defense there, you would think.
Definitely.
Alrighty, so with that pick out of the way, we're moving on to Dave's pick, which is going to be the fourth pick in this first round of the draft. Dave has selected a player who unfortunately ruins my prediction that Patty was going to be the first Archer main to go in the draft. It's going to be our fellow studio member, BM5.
Congrats.
Very happy to be a member of Dave's team here. I think he's a very solid team leader, and I'm glad to go this early.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, well-
so definitely Dave looking to pick up an Archer early on in the draft. Definitely after the finals, I can understand his desire to not go without an Archer for a series of significant matches. So hopefully he'll continue to consolidate his team around some smart picks along those lines. With that in mind, we're moving on to Wolfie98's pick. That's going to be the 5th pick of the first round. And Wolfie98 is going to be picking up a known offense multiclasser and another CTF 2020 Teams Tournament champion. It's going to be Exedra.
Really surprising to me, honestly, to pick up an offense flex as the 5th pick overall. But I mean, yeah, he's really good at Elf. We can see him play Chemist. He plays Archer a lot as well. It's definitely not a bad pick, but it's one that I'm kind of surprised about.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Trevor here. I didn't expect Exedra to be so early on, but I think it is also important to note how incredibly flexible he is as a player. He can also play a lot of defensive roles and as well as offense. So I think he's going to be able to fill in any holes that might come up in Wolfie's roster.
I agree. Quite like it as an early pick, to be honest. Although I wasn't expecting many offense mains to go early, he is extremely versatile, and I think it'll be a good pick for Wolfie.
Yeah. Alrighty, so next up in the draft is Chewy. With the 6th pick of the first round of the draft, Chewy is going to be selecting our first player who did not even make the semifinal round of the 2020 CTF Teams Tournament, and that's going to be DTJ 5511 of Delta Force.
Yeah, again, another good flex on defense. Can also play a bit of Pyro as well if Chewy wants to not play Pyro for a match, which I think is an interesting choice. I didn't expect DT to be this early on, and especially on Chewy's team.
Yeah, definitely good. Very surprising.
Yeah. Although it's worth noting, Chewy himself is also a good flex. So if DTJ was to go Pyro, then Chewy could maybe go Assassin or something like that.
Yeah, maybe Chewy just wants to not have to play. Yeah, Chewy just might not want to have to be the only Pyro on his team. So that's definitely a good choice.
Yeah, getting some backup there for your own role is definitely something that could be useful, especially if you know your own availability. With that in mind, let's move on to the next pick in the draft. We're looking at Food Court's 7th selection of the first round. Again, we're going to be seeing a player go from the 2020 tournament champions, the Baguettes. And that's going to be known defense multiclasser, and I think you might say assassin main, pick 3.
Yeah, definitely assassin main, although she has been trying to spread out a bit more recently due to the assassin nerf and stuff. Can now play a few classes pretty well.
We saw her as Elf Offense in a PPM last night, so watch out.
Yeah, I think that is important to note, though, that all the testing that's being done now, I don't think is going to be present in the tournament. So
yeah,
this is definitely an assassin pick from Food Court, I think. I think he knew that the early round picks were going to be good Pyro mains, so he went to solidify through an assassin rather than a Pyro, which I think is an interesting choice on his part.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, and finally, we're coming up to the last pick of the first round here. We're looking to have Miski solidify this first round of the draft, and he's going to be doing so with a bit of an interesting pickup. He's going to be picking up a player known for their overall PvP skills as well as for playing heavy on offense. It's going to be Aussie.
Yeah, again, Aussie is a good choice. Probably someone that people wanted to keep for a bit later in the draft. So I think Miski's probably stolen him quite early in this draft. Not to say that he's not worthy of this number 8 spot. He definitely is. So yeah, great choice from Miski, I think. A surprising one as well.
Yeah, so that actually rounds out our first round of the draft. Again, the players selected so far are G. Henry, Recovs, Chick D, BM5, Exedra, DTJ5511, Pig 3, and Aussie for our first round of the draft. Now, with that in mind, any things that stand out early on about this first round before we move on?
I am surprised Pyros are not chosen first. I'm not sure what I guess maybe we overestimated how much people care about having a really good Pyro. Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of these are very surprising to me. People like DT, like, no, and by no means am I trying to be rude, but DT is just such a weird fifth pick overall. Especially like when Chewy is one of the better Pyros out there. Yeah, I don't know.
That's very interesting, yeah. I also am a bit surprised by how many offense players have gone early. We see Miski, obviously a strong offense player himself, picking Aussie as well, which is another offensive player, so 0 defense there just now.
Yeah.
Interesting to see how that develops.
Alrighty, so I would like to issue a brief correction there in that DT was technically the 6th pick.
Oh, the 6th.
With Chewy drafting 6th. But with that in mind, let's move on to our second round. We've already got a few picks lined up here, so let's move along with a degree of efficiency. Miski, as mentioned before, is going to be picking 9th because of the way the snake draft works, and then we're going to go in reverse order for this round. So Miski, with the 9th pick, has picked up a player who is currently not on an official team, but not for long, because the Royals will become official soon. That's going to be Carowinds.
Yeah, definitely a well-experienced player and a good defense pick from Miski. Can flex ninja and bulk defense as well. I don't think anybody likes seeing Carowinds on bulk defense when they're coming in as an offensive player, so I think that's a smart choice from Miski. Rather than going for these insticle classes, going for just a solid all-round defender.
Yeah, I gotta say I'm a fan of that pick as well. Definitely don't like seeing Carowinds on the other team. Gonna be scary.
Alrighty, so Miski's turning his team into Olympus as of right now. Food Court has his second pick of the second round lined up. It's going to be a player who's very near and dear to us, quite literally, because he is the host for this tournament and our streamer today. So that's going to be Mikey.
Yeah, massive hype for Mike.
Hey!
Good, Mike.
Yeah, I know I talked briefly to Food Court about this, and I think Mike's a good pickup because of his defensive capabilities as a ninja, as well as his offense. And I think he might end up playing Pyro for Food Court's team. I think that might be the strategy there. So, great choice from Food Court.
Yeah, so moving right along now, we've got Chewy with the third pick of the second round. He's looking to pick up some archer support, and I'm honestly a little bit offended because it's not me. He's going to be picking up my counterpart on Annihilation and a longtime archer main, Brandino B.
I mean, what a pick. I'm surprised he hasn't gone earlier, to be honest. Very, very strong archer and could play a lot of stuff on defense. Goes without saying that that's a very good pick.
Yeah, and now he's got 2 strong Instaco classes lined up early on in the draft on his team, albeit one being himself, of course, and not actually being an Instaco class anymore, thank goodness. All right, 4th pick in the draft, moving right along. We've got Wolfie98 selecting an interesting pick up here. We'll see what you guys think of it. He's an assassin main, known for his time on the staff team and on Delta Force more recently. It's going to be Gamron.
Yeah, one of the stronger assassin players right now. Honestly, so I'm not surprised at all. I'm surprised he didn't get chosen sooner. I think he's the best assassin in the game right now, personally.
Definitely up there, yeah, I agree.
Alrighty, definitely a strong vote of confidence from our studio hosts here. Next up in the draft is going to be Dave. He'll be selecting with the 5th pick of the second round, and he's looked to pick up another strong PvPer, a good bulk defense player, I think it's fair to say. It's going to be Evan, also known as Saiyan.
As a member of Dave's team, I've got to say I'm happy to see Evan with us rather than against us. He's a very annoying player to play against, very good at PvP, and I think that's a good pickup.
Yeah, another good solidifier on the defense there, rather than going for offense early on, continuing to keep a good defense building.
Alrighty, now with the 6th pick of the second round, we see Azel make a terrible choice, like an absolutely terrible decision in his drafting order. I don't think I've ever seen a pick this bad, and I really hate to say it, but he may have thrown the tournament. With the 6th pick of the second round here in the draft, Azel has selected Bosquet.
I mean,
wow, what a shock.
Yeah, I think Azel's just, it's a really early round pick, and I think that's a bit of a waste, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, as the 5th worst archer in this room, I don't know why he chose. Okay.
But in seriousness, I think that's a good pickup, getting the archer early on there.
I think that's a scary looking defense now.
It's surprising seeing Azel himself, who's an archer, who's I would say I would compare Boss and Azel to the same skill level. It's interesting to pick 2 archers that are like as good as one another, I think.
Ooh.
Perhaps allows Azel to move on to Ninja though. So
yeah, maybe that's Azel's plan. Is to not.
I would not like to face that defense if I was the offense main, to be honest. Azel, Chick D, and Boss. So it looks good.
All right, so next up on the list is a selection from Rejected. He is going to be picking Mario from Olympus, also known as participated with the 7th pick of the second round. Any thoughts?
I'm interested to see where Mario ends up playing, if he plays defense or offense. Personally, I think he's better on offense. I think he does well on defense. He's not a bad defensive player, but I think people underestimate his offensive skill. So I'm interested to see where Rejected ends up putting him in. But I think it's a good pickup. It's a good flex.
Yeah, Mario can do everything well. I mean, 2 years ago, he won the tournament while playing offense for the Templars. And since he's been at Olympus, he's been one of the important key members for defense. So yeah, I definitely agree with you, Patty. It'd be cool to see what Rejected has in store for Mario.
Yeah, definitely hope to see him improve on his ninja capping abilities as well. So, lastly, we're finally getting back around to the next selection from Bar 1, 2, 3, 4 to close out the second round of the draft. Bar 1, 2, 3, 4, picking G. Henry in the first round, and now is going to be bolstering his offense with the pickup of the noted medic main, Ninsanity.
Interesting to see a medic offense here. Obviously, very good player, can play a lot on offense now. I've seen him play soldier offense a bit more recently. I think that's a good pickup.
Yeah, definitely very early for offense, but I think it was a good idea to get that medic off in early on, because Nin's probably one of the stronger ones. Obviously, food can't be chosen, and I think Pudgy will be waiting in the wings as well.
Alrighty, yeah, so that wraps up our second round. Any things jump out about that round to you before we move on to the next round of drafting?
Yeah, that round looked a lot more geared towards defense, Nin being the only offense pick in that round. So I think most teams trying to keep building on their defense first before they go on to their offensive players.
Alrighty. Yeah. Do go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say there's a couple of teams standing out to me so far. I think Azor, Chick D, and Boss is a very scary defense. But conversely, you've got Miski, Aussie, and Caro on the same team, which could be very strong offense as well. So
yeah, really strong teams overall, but that's how it's going to go in the first rounds. And I think as we move on into the upper/mid/lower mid-level players, this is where we're going to see some teams really shine.
Alrighty, so moving on to the third round of the draft, we are starting once again with bar 1, 2, 3, 4. And as a reminder, this is the last round of the draft where players who are selected cannot be traded. So these are the players that teams do have to pick as their cores to build around. With that in mind, we've seen bar 1, 2, 3, 4 select strong multi-classer and player of some notoriety from the Crusaders. It's going to be Kev Shadowslayer, also known as Razaragon.
Yeah, I imagine Bar has picked Kev as an archer in this respect. I don't think he's going. I don't think he will want Kev to be on offense for his team. I think that's an archer pick, in my opinion.
I definitely agree with that. Kev's a very good archer, and I think along with G. Henry there on defense, that's a scary defense.
Alrighty, moving on to our second pick of this round, we have another potential archer main coming up. Rejected with his second pick of the third round, and his last protected pick is going to be selecting Wintergreen 3.
Yeah, I think Trevor and I have been left out here. I mean, I thought we were archer mains, but we keep getting left out.
One of the oldest names to archer in the server, so definitely not surprising that Rejected wanted to pick up one of the more notable archers.
Alrighty, and definitely a lot of archer selections early on, so interesting to see that class valued as highly as it is. Azel has another pick, his third pick in the third round, and selecting a tournament finalist and a player whose name matches his best known role. That's going to be Fire Turtle.
I've got to say, with all of the pyros some of the pyros going relatively early, I'm surprised to see Fire Turtle this late. I think that's a very, very good pickup from Azel.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Alrighty, next up on the list, we're going to see Dave bolstering his offense, I think it's fair to say, with this next pick in the draft. He's selected, again from the tournament finalists, the Baguettes. He has selected Carson.
Good pickup, really good offense flex. He talks a lot too, and he's clear comms. I think that's definitely a wise pickup.
Yeah, I think Dave's definitely into communication, and I think he's very aware that Carson will be communicating with him. So I think that's a very intelligent choice.
Yeah.
Yep. Very versatile as well.
Alrighty. Dave already starting to draft a number of members from the Baguettes. Next up in the draft is going to be Wolfie98. He's selected a player best known in the tournament for their assassin play, but also a long-time pyro main from what had been the tournament finalists at Fundum. He's selecting Netflix.
I think I personally am very surprised that TV has been left for this late. I'm surprised that so many people have left him out for so long. I mean, he's the next pyro main next to G. Henry. And yeah, I honestly expected him to be Miski's first pick. So I think it's great that Wolfie has picked up that hasn't happened, and he's picked him up in the third round.
Alrighty. Chewy is going to be our next pick in the draft, and it looks like he's going to be developing his offense here with one of CTF's oldest and most experienced soldier mains. Not Fivehead, I'm afraid. The next pick in the draft is going to be going to DucksFan 101.
Yeah, I'm
You go.
surprised seeing Ducks go this late, honestly. I figured people would want to see him as their main capper for their team, and seeing him as the mid-third round pick is a little surprising to me.
Yeah, I think he's also very in practice at the moment. He's been grinding a lot on CTF recently, getting like a lot of practice in. So he's definitely in practice. He's well oiled. So It's
I
scary.
agree.
It's always scary seeing Ducks fan enter a flag row.
Alrighty, next up is going to be Food Court again. Food Court seeming to want to bolster his offense here, and I think we're definitely seeing a lot of these players from TB's offense get picked up early on. His next selection of the draft is going to be known CTFer and Mindplexer, Rain.
Gotta love having Rain on your team. I think that's a good pick from Food Court. Very good, versatile offender again. And one of my Manpex friends, shout out Rain.
Alrighty. Next up in the draft is going to be Miski with the final protected pick of the draft. Remember, players up until this point who have been selected cannot be traded. So, with his last untradeable pick of the draft, with the tournament's last untradeable pick, we're going to see Miski select college degree.
Very unexpected, untradeable pick, honestly. They're very good at Assassin and Ninja, but I just didn't picture them being a staple to Miski's plan.
Yeah, I expect Miski's picked him as an assassin there. I would say college is a very good assassin, but I don't like there are probably other players that if you wanted to lock in the best assassin you would go maybe a bit earlier. And yeah, I feel like college is one person who's probably been a bit overlooked, so might have been able to save him through some later rounds if he wanted to. But interesting pickup to end out this third round.
Yeah.
Already 3 rounds in, are any teams shaping up to be terrifying, more so than you might have thought otherwise?
Not yet. I'm curious to see these next few rounds, so we're gonna really see some team comps for him.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I do think we have to wait a little bit further on into the draft to see some more interesting choices. I'm already excited for these next couple of rounds of the draft, though. I think this is where teams are really going to start to get creative with their picks now that we've moved on past some of the consensus top choices. So, moving on into the 4th round of the draft, remember we are doing a snake draft, so Miski starts picking this round. And with the first non-protected pick of the tournament, Miski is going to be selecting former Annihilation player, one of his teammates who recently left for mysterious reasons. It's going to be the known offense multiclasser, and I think quite a strong player in his own right, Salty Ivan.
One of the best chemists right now. Hopefully that remains true after the change. He's really good at talking. He's definitely a team player. Listens to leadership. Listens to what he's told to do. Definitely a really good pickup for Miski's offense list. Plus, I know Miski and him have at least three matches of experience working together in the tournament. So I think that also had a big part in Miski's decision making.
Alrighty, Food Court has the next pick of the draft already lined up, and he looks to be going to one of his Olympus standbys for this 4th pick. It's going to be the terrifying mage, and I think possibly the first true mage main of this draft. It's going to be AP Literature.
Yeah, I think that's a great choice for Food. As obviously as an Olympus member, he knows how important AP is for a defense, and can also flex into assassin, which a lot of people forget. Like AP is a really good assassin player as well. I remember a game, Olympus vs Annihilation, that one where Miski got specced. AP.
We don't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, sorry. But like AP was switching between mage and assassin and was really effective. So I think that's a great choice.
Definitely, yeah. Scary.
Alrighty, next up in the draft is going to be Chewy. Chewy looking seemingly here to support his defense with a strong multi-class player who's been favoring bulk lately. And it's going to be another pickup from Delta Force, who are a team that's been trending up recently, I think it's fair to say. It's going to be Spades.
Yeah, pretty solid bulk defender and PvPer. I think that's a good pick for sure.
Alrighty, moving on to the next pick of the draft then, after Spades. We've got another interesting choice here from Wolfie. Looks like he's going to be supporting his offense with a nice pickup here. We're going to see Tusational, also known as Megacraft 6000, from Olympus.
Yeah, definitely a strong soldier and necro and chemist. So a good offensive flex for that
Yeah,
team. Wolfie.
I'm glad to see Justin go this early on. I think he should have been picked earlier. I think Justin's one of the better offenders right now. Also, in regards to Ivan, he's a really good team player. He can do multiple things at a really high level. I think that's definitely a really strong pickup for their offense.
Yep, very much so.
Alrighty. Next, down the line, we're going to be moving on to Dave. Dave, again, looking to bolster his offense with another dynamic player here. We've got Alaska, also known as Sayo, again from the tournament finals winners, the Baguettes.
We've got a trend here going with Dave's team, getting a few baguette players. I like Alaska, can play offense or some roles on defense as well, it's worth noting. So good pickup, I like that.
Alrighty, next up in the draft is going to be Azel. Azel already having selected, I think what's fair to call a defense course so far. Now looking to bolster his offense with strong soldier main here. He's picked Sir Leo.
Yeah, a good pick for offense, I think. Obviously, Leo is a main capper for TC, and pretty much any team that he ever plays on in any PPM, you expect Sir Leo to get a few caps for you. Probably a bit out of practice at the moment, but I'm sure that rust is just going to shake off like he was barely gone. So I think that's a good pickup.
I'm surprised he hasn't gone earlier, to be honest. Very good pickup.
Alrighty. After Leo, we're going to be moving on to Rejected. Rejected has picked another offensive player with his 7th selection in this 4th round. Rejected picking up Sparked, or Spark Cake. Perhaps better known as the Spartan 33.
I like that. Good pickup. Good pickup. I think that's turning into quite a good team, though.
Yeah, and another good example of a good offender who's a really good team player and can flex to multiple things in offense.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, and now with the 4th pick, with the 8th pick of the 4th round, our last pick of this round of the tournament, we've got a spicy selection from bar 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's fair to say. He looks to be bolstering his offense as well with a main soldier player. And that's going to be Fella 001 from the Roxer Seas.
Yeah, very, very unexpected pick. I know Bar is familiar with Fella, and I by no means is he Fella bad. I think he's a very good soldier player. But in this format, I think that's a super weird pick this early on.
I gotta say, I think Fella could have been saved perhaps for a couple picks time, but
yeah.
Well, you've got to admit, as the leader of the Roxer Seas, Bar knows his players better than most of us, so may well end up being that Fella is a steal at this point in the tournament. We'll have to see.
Out.
So, with all of those picks lined up, we are going to be moving on to the next round here. I think we can stop and analyze the teams a little bit afterwards. But with the next pick of the tournament, we're going to see bar 1, 2, 3, 4 again, because this is a snake draft. Select a strong, I think it's fair to say, part of the Baguette's flagrum. It's going to be Imposed.
Yeah, I think that's a good pickup. I think Impose probably didn't get the chance on TV to play a lot of Assassin. So I think that might be where Bar is thinking she'll play for him. So I think that's a good Assassin pickup. a bit later on in the draft. I think that's an intelligent choice from Bar.
I think we saw a few of the assassins go earlier, so Pig 3, for example, and Chick D can flex assassin well for baguettes, but I think Diana's a pretty underrated assassin, and to get her this late is a good pickup from Bar.
Alrighty, that brings us back to Rejected. He has made a selection that looks to be to bolster his defense here, as we've got Mikey turned around in the studio, looking away from us in shame, perhaps. Rejected has selected, with the second pick of this 5th round, Danny or Vote.
Yeah, strong ninja to come out so late, I think.
Yeah, I would have expected to see him go earlier.
Very much so.
But yeah, I think a good late pickup. Sorry, continuing on.
No worries. We're definitely moving through these picks quite quickly here, and the team leaders are drafting fairly rapidly as well. So moving on already with the next pick of this draft, Azel is going to be selecting a noted medic main, and again, another member of the Baguettes, obviously a team that's rated fairly highly. Azel is selecting Lara.
Yeah, really good offense medic. She's been doing it for a long time, so she's very well versed in how to do that real well. You know, we never know. We might see her playing into defense for some reason also.
Yep, I like the look of that pick. Very good medic offender, and surprised she's been this late again, to be fair.
Yeah, so with that pick out of the way, we're moving on to Dave. Dave finally selecting a player who is not from the Baguettes, and an interesting choice to bolster his team's defense and recovery, one that I rate fairly highly, I think it's fair to say. Dave has selected I Lost the Game, or Will.
Yeah, really good assassin main, good comms, also a good team player. Very familiar with Will and how he works. One of the better assassins. Well, more so one.
Oh,
I think we just lost Trev.
oh, he's back.
I joined another call accidentally. One of the sleeper assassins because he doesn't really play anymore, but he's definitely still retained all of his skill from years of experience.
Yeah, and definitely scout player more recently as well. So definitely interesting choice to see. So next, with the next pick of the draft, Wolfie98 has made a selection to improve his team all around. I think it's fair to say, with a player who plays a lot of classes that are in high demand, but don't necessarily have a lot of people playing them regularly, including Mage and Scout. Notably, Wolfie98 is going to be selecting Diamond League.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting flex choice, but I think a good one from Wolfie. I think probably maybe stolen from a few people who were thinking of picking him up a bit later on.
Yeah, definitely a selection that we've seen valued pretty highly by the chat already as well. So with Diamond League having been picked, we move on to Chewy's selection in this next round. Chewy is going to be picking up one of Delta Force's core offense members and a strong chemist main who also has some pyro in his past history. It's going to be Pedro.
Yeah, I think Chewy's offense is starting to pop out now with Dux and Pedro coming in. I think it's going to be quite an intimidating team that he's building up towards.
Yeah, definitely. So next up in the tournament is going to be, well, looks like there was some confusion among our drafters. Food Court initially tried to select the Spartan 33, but he had already been selected. So with his next pick in the draft, Food Court has instead opted to make a very spicy selection as well. Food Court is going to be picking up 93 from the Roxorcies.
Yeah, a good flex player as well. Can flex a bit on defense. I'd expect to see him on offense, I think. Playing a bit of chemist, and I think he does do a bit of elf as well, but he can play ninja very strong. So it'll be interesting to see where Food Court decides to put 93 in that roster.
Alrighty, next up on the list is going to be Miski with his selection. And he looks to be finishing off the third round with a member of his own team, Annihilation, who I think has been rated a little bit highly by chat based on what I've been seeing. That's going to be Tourney.
Yeah, good flex, strong PvP. Yeah, good choice.
I like that. Yep.
Alrighty, so 5 rounds in. Teams are already starting to shape up. Is there anything that really stands out to you that teams are missing right now that they might want to pick up?
I think a few are missing some core defense roles. I think every team, in a respect, is missing an assassin, a pyro, or an archer. It's obviously very difficult to go through all of them and pick out, but I think the archers are the biggest one that's missing at the moment. I think we've seen a few get chosen, but I still think there need to be some.
There's still some
Big
definitely
pickups.
good archers to come. Yeah, very much so.
And also, oh, sorry, I was going to say also ninjas as well.
That's what I was going
No
to say. Yeah.
real massive ninja mains.
Yeah, definitely a lot of players in those roles. Definitely still in the draft. It'll be interesting to see. We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule here, so that's good to see right now. We may even be able to bring you a couple more additional rounds of the draft that we were not planning to initially. But with that in mind, let's move right on along. Miski has the first pick of the 6th round of the draft. And with that pick, he's going to be selecting a player, interestingly, who said no to his availability question on the form, but also is a player noted for their pyro play, so definitely something Miski had not locked up before. It's going to be Code Bastion.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see a pyro this late, a pyro that's still available this late in the draft. But Code's a great choice. One of the best recovery pyros, in my opinion. Not really a part of pyro that people think about a lot, but definitely catches up to carriers very well.
Yeah.
Very intelligently too.
Another thing I'd say is Code would have probably gone earlier if not for his lack of availability at some points, but that's a very good pick if it pays off with availability.
Alrighty. Next up on the list is going to be Food Court's pick. Food Court selecting a player known to them reasonably well based on these signups, I think it's fair to say, and someone who we might expect to solidify their roster a bit more as well. That's going to be Slurp _.
Yeah, I think that's the first pretty much dedicated ninja main that's been picked up. Like Slurp, we're not going to see Slurp on any other role, I don't think. And yeah, obviously Food Court very comfortable playing with Slurp.
Alrighty, next up on the list is going to be a bit of a spicy pick here from Chewy, because it's a player who's not going to be able to play for the first few rounds of the tournament. But because the tournament is going to outlast their restriction, they are in fact eligible to be drafted. That's going to be Sabu, also known as Turn Me Up Trap.
Yeah, I think that's a weird pick early on, giving Sab's situation where he can't play the first 2 matches. So as long as Chewy has a good backup plan for who can fill in that important offense role, I think that's a fine pickup.
Alrighty. Definitely one that we will not see in the early rounds of the tournament, though, as they will still be restricted. Worth noting as well that teams cannot be eliminated in the group stage, so that may have played into Chewy's selection. With the next pick of the draft, Wolfie98 from Citrix is going to be selecting one of his newer teammates, player Citrix picked up after the tournament, and one of the server's best-known medic mains. It's going to be Pudgy.
Yeah, I think that's a great steal coming into these later rounds, getting a solid med off into your team. And I know Wolfie and Pudgy get along pretty well, so I think that's a good solidifier for their team.
Once again, yeah, I like that medic offense pick. Wolfie looking like he's got a very strong offense there. Of course, picked Exedra up and Justin in earlier rounds. I like that a lot.
Now, I think Dave might have had the same idea because he looks to have selected a noted medic main in his own right. It's going to be the medic main who played for Delta Force in the tournament and continues to be an integral part of their roster. That would be Cupcake.
Gotta say, I'm a fan of that pickup as part of Dave's team, and very good medic main as well. Maybe influenced by Pudgy going the round earlier, but looking good.
Yeah, and good comms as well from Cup.
Yeah, definitely.
Alrighty, so with Cup being selected, we now move on to Azel's next selection. He looks to be stacking his defense here, although this player can switch on to offense a little bit as well. With the next pick of the 6th round of the tournament, I believe, we're going to see Azel select Seago.
Well, my first instinct there is, how has Seago not gone earlier? Very good ninja player. I think that's a great pick.
Yeah, definitely a ninja player known for his mechanical prowess. So another threatening player, if I dare say so myself, on Team Azel's roster. Moving on, we're going to be seeing Dot make the next selection of the tournament. Dot also looking to pick up a player mostly known for their medic, this time from the Crusaders. Dot is going to be selecting Bloom for the next pick of the draft, Dot being rejected, of course.
Yeah, another med off. It seems to be the med off round for all the meds to get taken away. I think Bloom also is a pretty good offense flex into soldier as well, but I'm pretty sure we'll see her on medic for Dot's team.
Alrighty, and next up we're going to see Bar1234 make the last selection of the 6th round of the draft. Bar1234 perhaps looking to bolster his offense with a strong multi-classer and another pickup from Delta Force, who have all gone pretty early, I think it's fair to say. At least a lot of them have gone pretty early. It's going to be Snowbreak.
Yeah, interestingly, like that's a very good off pick for Bar. I think Snow can flex pretty well when he plays as competitively as he can sometimes. So I think Snow will help solidify their offense in that respect, especially combining with Nin. I think Bar made a good choice there, and Feller as well. Sorry.
Yeah, that offense featuring both Fella and Snowbreak looking to be pretty threatening already. So with that pickup, we are 6 rounds deep. Anything other than the medic selections jump out about that last round?
Well, a couple of ninjas go there as well, Slurp and Seago. And yeah, just a lot more offense-based picks, I think.
Yeah. I think maybe we'll see a few more ninjas go now, because as we were saying, there weren't too many ninjas drafted previously, but perhaps now it's their time.
Alrighty, 7th round of the draft coming right up. Bar1234 again leading us off because of our snake draft order. He has selected a player who has played a lot of classes through their CTF history, but is perhaps best known for Ninja and Chemist lately. That's going to be Versions.
Yeah, well, Versions can flex onto offense as well as bit of ninja and bulk defense. So it's got a lot of flexibility in that respect. I would imagine, based off how this roster has built so far, that Versions is going to be a defensive pick for Bar. But yeah, great choice. Again, surprising. I didn't think Bar would pick Versions this early on, but nicely done.
Yep, and another pickup from the Crusaders roster, who already have quite a few players selected early on in the draft. Next up on the list is going to be Rejected, or Dot, selecting a player who's known for their strength on bolt classes as well as on offense, with Medic being definitely an option for them. Rejected has selected Epislin from Team Annihilation.
Yeah, well, I'll be interested to see. I'm pretty sure Epsilon will play a lot of offense for them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up in that roster. Looking like Rejected is starting to move more towards bolstering his offense after picking Bloom last round.
Definitely, yeah.
Alrighty, next up in the draft is going to be Team Hazel. Team Hazel selecting a player who I think it's fair to say is definitely the best archer in this room, but not a very good mage. It's going to be Trev.
Yes, Trev.
No comment. No comment.
I like that. Strong pickup from Hazel. Obviously, very good mage. Can flex onto archer if needed as well. Although there is a lot of good archers on that team now, I must say.
Yeah, of course. Definitely an interesting selection in that regard, though, because I'm afraid that means both Skages won't get any playtime on Archer. So he may have wasted an early pick on both. Alrighty, next up in the draft is going to be Dave. Dave will be selecting another player from Delta Force here. Again, Delta Force seeming to have its players go pretty early. Dave will be selecting Gengar.
Yeah, it looks like another offense round for a lot of teams looking to build on their offenses now that they've got a pretty solid defense in place. So yeah, good pickup, good soldier, Gengar.
Definitely, yeah. So next up is going to be Wolfie98. Wolfie98 selecting a player from the Crusaders this time and an integral part of their ninja defense. That selection will be Doodle, or Doodleberry 7.
Yeah, I like that. I like that as a pick. Doodle can flex a lot, especially like Chem and Ninja is what we'll probably expect to see. I'm gonna guess he'll play Ninja for Wolfie there. And yeah, good pickup for later on in the draft, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So with Doodleberry 7 going over to Wolfie, we're going to see another pickup here from Chewy, a player who recently came back to CTF and has already had a pretty strong impact. It's going to be underscore tireless, or B2.
I think that's probably another ninja pick. I like that. Good pick.
Okay, moving right on along then. With Food Court making his next selection after prompting from our hosts, we finally have a player that chat has been clamoring for a little while here. Food Court selecting Link, aka Shisui, with his next to last selection of this round at the draft.
Yeah, I think that's a great late pick for Food. Link can flex a lot on offense and play a bit of defense, but I'm pretty sure for Food that's an offensive pick and a good pickup as well, seeing that a lot of these teams have been building their offenses and Link is one that I'm surprised didn't get picked earlier.
I think probably the reason is similar to Code Bastion, where they're a very strong player and would have gone much earlier if it wasn't for their activity. He did reply no to the will you be able to commit to a majority of the match days listed on the thread thing. So that's probably why Link's gone so late, but a very good pickup. Let's see if it pays off for Food Court there.
Definitely high risk, high reward. And Our last pick of the draft is Miski going back to an old standby of his and strong mage main in his own right, even if he's been playing a little bit of medic defense for Annihilation recently. That's going to be a Frog Dog.
Yeah, good mage pickup. I'm sure Miski is very comfortable playing with a Frog Dog as well. Knows the power of a mage on defense. And I'm pretty sure he was very comfortable leaving Austin as a bit of a later draft there.
Alrighty, so that wraps up our 7th round here. And as you may have noticed, we're only barely an hour into the broadcast, so we may just go ahead and stream all of the draft picks if time allows. With that in mind, having completed our 7th round here, is there anyone in that particular round who stands out as a pick that could have a really major impact in the tournament?
I think the one that stands out for me is maybe Link. If he's able to show up to a lot of those rounds, and that's a very, very strong late pick from Food Court.
Yeah, I got to agree with that one.
Alrighty, so moving on to round 8. This was going to be the last round we had scheduled for the broadcast. We are going to be seeing Miski make the next selection. And with his pick, he's going to be picking a longtime CTF regular, known for playing a variety of roles on both offense and defense. It's going to be Eeyore 6.
Yeah, for me, I think Eeyore is probably going to be playing a lot of defense for this particular roster. Miski's gone for a very strong offense early on. So I think Eeyore will probably be playing in Ninja, if I were to guess, or Bulk. But yeah, interesting pickup from Miski, starting to bring in some defensive players now. After a pretty interesting focus on some offensive players early on.
Next up on the list, again after prompting, with Food Court taking his time a little bit on these picks, we're going to be seeing an offense main from Team Annihilation be picked up for the purposes of this draft. Food Court has selected Chactation.
Yeah, just similar to I Lost the Game. Old player, still retained a lot of his skill. Still has that old man wise man game sense. So I think that's a really strong pick for Food Court's offense.
Alrighty. Next up on the list is going to be Chewy. Chewy having made a fairly quick selection here and looking to perhaps bolster his team's ninja or chemist stocks. Chewy has selected Kavivi.
Yeah, I think that's a really intelligent pickup. I think Kavivi's somebody that I've definitely been looking at a lot and wanting to get on my team. So I think he's quite strong. Has probably one of the lowest pings on the server as well, which is always handy and can flex on defense.
Yeah, he's definitely living in the basement of the Brawl Host building.
Yeah, kind of incredible that they've let him room there. It's
yeah,
definitely one heck of an advantage. Now, with that in mind, we have Wolfie98 making their selection for the tournament, and Wolfie selecting again, I believe, a player from Citrix. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's going to be Color.
Yes, starting to move into a lot of offense, starting to be drafted in, as I've said a lot of times now, that I'm going to stop saying because I'm just repeating myself. But that's a good chemist pickup as well for Wolfie there. I haven't seen Color play a lot recently, but I've just been missing him. So I'm sure he's well oiled as always.
Alrighty, next up in the draft order is going to be Dave. Dave selecting a player from his old team Ad Fundum, who is a major part of their roaming defense and recent returning regular to CTF. It's K-Rex.
I like that pickup from Dave. Good flex player, can fill in a lot of roles, and it's a good late pick, I think.
Yeah, and then add Fundam teammate as well. So good synergy, I'm sure.
All right. Next up on the list is going to be Azel. Azel selecting finally another offense main, I think it's fair to say, and a player who seems to have been on CTF since the Stars were born, the leader of many teams in years past. It's going to be Fivehead.
Gotta say, I'm a little bit surprised that 5 went this late. Very good soldier player, and obviously so experienced. That's a good pickup from Azel for his offense.
Yeah. So next up in the draft is going to be Rejected, picking up another former Ad Fundum player. They seem to be starting to go a little more quickly now in the draft. And a player who previously to Ad Fundum did not have too much experience on top teams outside of perhaps Galvanize. That's going to be Ujianskis.
Yeah, good offensive flex. Chem and Elf, really strong from UG. And I'm sure that's going to help Rejected's offense out quite a lot.
And lastly, in this round, we're going to be seeing Bar 1, 2, 3, 4 look to solidify his defense with another strong pickup, I think it's fair to say, from the Roxorcy's player with a lot of upside. It's going to be Autistic. I don't know if he has another name that he can go by.
Well, I think that's what he's been playing on quite recently. But yeah, good PvP, a good bulk D. Have seen him flex onto Ninja a bit, and play pretty much every class under the sun on casual. So well versed.
Yeah, definitely. So that's 8 rounds in, actually. We are halfway through the draft here, so already moving along at a pretty good clip. Halfway through, we've got a lot of picks done so far. So would you say that there are any big players who have still yet to go in the draft? Any players you would have expected to definitely be in these first 8 rounds?
I think Murdoch not being picked yet is a little surprising. I think he's very good at, he's a little bit laggy, which maybe the leaders know, but he's a very good pyro. If like the main pyro teams might have doesn't show up, and he's also very good at bulk defense. So I'm surprised that he hasn't been picked yet. As well as Krabs. I think Krabs is very good. I'm not sure why he has not been picked yet either.
Yes, the legendary third horse, still not in the draft, I'm afraid. BM5, Paddishley, any sleeper picks in your eyes?
I think there's a few good archer mains that are still missing from this that we might see in the next few rounds. And nobody else really comes to mind. Pi, maybe. Good offensive player. See them soon.
Yeah, I think there will be a few offensive players that obviously aren't just springing to mind now, but when we see them, we'll just feel like that was a fantastic late round pick. So yeah, not any usernames at the moment that's springing to mind, but there's just a lot of players in the server. It's hard to remember everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's fair to say that I agree with BM5. After all, we have not seen Paddishley go yet on Archer. So
don't worry, I'm round 17 or something, man. Don't worry.
Well, I mean, we do see Patty with the offense flex role.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
really, what do I main, guys? What do I main?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, anyway. You've beat me, I'm afraid. Okay, moving on. Round 9 of the draft. We're going to see Bar 1, 2, 3, 4 make the first selection of this round. And that's going to be another Delta Force player. What are the odds? We're going to see Bar 1, 2, 3, 4 select Haha Get Lost, also known as Wolves.
Yeah, good pickup. Have seen Wolves on a lot recently on late night and has been destroying. So I would be nervous seeing Wolves on. I think he's a bit underrated in my opinion. So I think that's a good pickup from Bar.
Alrighty, next up in this 9th round of the draft, we're going to see Dot make another selection, rejected that is, who has potentially questionable availability, but also a lot of upside. He's going to be selecting Fridge.
Yeah, it's a good ninja coming late in these rounds. Very strong ninja, definitely in terms of playing with him on Annie as well. That was a horrible sentence. I did not do that well.
I really like this pick actually. Very good PvPer. Late pick because probably due to the activity issues, but if he's active, then once again high risk, high reward. I like it.
Alrighty, next up in the draft is going to be Azel making an interesting selection with this pick, a player who has played a lot of roles recently and who I also saw terrorizing BM5 in PPM not too long ago. It's going to be Ronger.
Yeah, it's an interesting pick from Azel. That's another potential Archer main coming into the roster, as well as Chemist offense, I believe. I'm gonna guess that's an offensive pick from Azel, but you never know. Might end up just trying to run 4 archers at the start of the match or something.
Yes, the legendary 4-archer blackout strat, straight from the 2013 TT playbook, I'm certain.
Yeah.
All right, next up on the list is going to be Dave making another selection from the old Ad Fundum roster, looking to bolster his offense again. This is definitely a lot of offense mains from Dave already. He has selected Pi.
Yeah, I think Ben called that one.
Yep.
But yeah, well, definitely a good, strong offensive player that Dave's comfortable playing with again. So, yeah, good job. I like that we're bolstering into these offensive classes.
Alrighty, next up on the list is going to be Wolfie98. Wolfie98 selecting a player who's definitely been around CTF a lot recently, a very active player. It's going to be Rave with a 4.
I like this pick. If I recall correctly from PPMs, good comms, very good on bulk and ninja, I believe. I like that.
Yeah, I know early on for CX he was playing a lot of offense, but definitely flexing into defense now. So, yeah, interesting choice.
Alrighty, next up on the list, we're going to have Chewy make a selection from the Baguettes roster, a player who I had seen people call for earlier, and I think with some merit. That's going to be Hayes, Haise.
Yeah, I think that was always going to be Chewy's pick.
Why is
yes,
that?
No reason. There's no history there. It's fine. But yeah, strong defensive player. Plays very well in bulk as well. So yeah, nice pickup from Chewy. Pretty expected as well. So
Yep, I like that pick. Very good player.
Alrighty, next up we see Food Court dipping into the list of restricted players again. Another player who's not going to be able to play at the start of the tournament, but will be around for the later rounds. We see Food Court selecting 2008 or Kriz.
yeah, I definitely like Kriz being picked up here. It's good defense flex, but it's another high risk, high reward scenario. So we'll see how that goes for Food Court.
Yeah, definitely betting on the later rounds of the tournament and the playoffs. Lastly, we're going to see Miski make the, I believe, final selection of this round. Miski is going to be picking up Sake.
Yeah, good offensive pick. Pretty late on as well. Can flex a lot of offense classes as well. So yeah, I like Sake. I think that's a great late pick from Miski as well.
I think that's very good. Yeah, very active. Famous for his 2 a.m. PPMs as well. I like him. Good pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I believe that has left us 9 rounds in. With that in mind, Are there any teams you would dare call early favorites at this point in time?
Well, Team Azel is looking really, really good. So
I've got to agree.
No bias. No bias there.
no, not at all. Not at
Yeah,
all.
I think I'd have to agree. Team Azel is looking very strong. There's a lot of, I think teams are starting to fill their gaps a bit more now, starting to see more of the core defense filled up. But yeah, Team Azel would be my first instinct as a favorite so far.
And let me tell you, when you see when you load into the server and you see Bosquet, Trevor, and Rongerbach standing on top of Blackout, pointing their bows at you, you will be running in terror.
It's true.
And
Yeah,
Azel
get-
himself, of course. You
Get
can't
out
forget
with the
big
quad
man.
NG. We don't need quad NG anymore. We got quad archer, boys.
But wouldn't quad NG be a direct counter to quad archer? Are we already 2 steps behind the Baguettes?
Potentially,
comment.
but Ben's just laughing. There's a secret playbook somewhere, I'm sure.
Oh
You
no,
already
no.
know.
We've all seen him go up against Quad Engineer recently. I think it's fair to say.
Oh God, don't remind me.
Alrighty, so next up, 10th round of the draft, we're going to be seeing Miski lead us off with a pick who's been playing a little bit more and seeing good results on Annihilation recently. It's going to be Ska, known to some older players as Parkour Master 456.
Yeah, I will admit to not having much knowledge on this player.
I think that's probably a ninja pickup from Miski. Looking good. Probably needed to fill a couple more ninja spots, but I like that. Good late pick.
Yeah, definitely a ninja player more recently, as well as I think it's fair to say a strong all-around player. He's got a little flexibility to his game, which is always something you look for. Food Court has the next pick of the draft, and it's going to be a player who looks to be very near and dear to the draft stream chat, I think it's fair to say. A longtime CTF regular and frequenter of the CTF Communities Discord. It's going to be Shoki.
Yeah, good pickup. Shoki's good PvP, good bulk defense. Often known as a bit of a carry on defense. So I'm sure Food Court's very happy to have him on the team there.
I'm very surprised to see Shoki go this late. Very good bulk player. Can also flex onto medic as well if needed. I like it a lot.
Alrighty. Moving right along, we've got Chewy making his next selection. We have a player who's definitely been very active on CTF and plays a lot of classes, a real jack of all trades in this community. It's going to be SimCB.
Yeah, good flex with Sim. Obviously, hoping for stable ping for him, but can play a lot of the roles on defense that not a lot of other players can play. Flexing into stuff like NG and Mage and Assassin and Scout.
Good scout, definitely.
Yeah, and can jump onto offense as well. So really good flex from Chewy there. Good pick.
Love that pick. Yep.
All right, next up in the draft is going to be Wolfie98. Wolfie98 selecting a player who's recently been on Ethereal and is generally known for a variety of classes, but has been playing a fair amount of Archer. It's going to be Quarterpan.
Yeah, that's an Archer main pretty late in. Good choice, I think. Like, very good to get an Archer late, a main this late, and a pretty strong one in my opinion. Haven't seen a lot in terms of competitive, but he's quite strong when I see him in casual. So, yeah, nice pickup.
All right, next up on the list is going to be Dave selecting one of the leaders of a new pending team, the Royals, who've already picked up a pretty large roster. It's going to be Dave selecting Hamza.
Yeah, good flex from Hamza as well. Has obviously been playing a lot of Pyro quite recently, so that might be their Pyro pick really late on. And
I think
yeah,
that looks like it could be a pyro pick. Yep. Either that or K-Rex, but I like that pick. Good late pick, to be fair.
Okay, next up on the list, Hazel is going to be selecting an old regular and very strong chemist main, I think still, it's fair to say. We're going to see him pick up Scapesar from Citrix.
Yeah, probably a slept-on pick there. Scape, probably not very well known by the leaders in terms of activity. Oh my lord, I can't speak anymore. But yeah, I think that's a good pick late on for Escape there.
All right, next up on the list, we're going to be seeing Rejected make a selection here. Again, a player from the Rockstar Seas going in this round of the draft. And I think I know them a little bit for Necro, but they definitely play a variety of classes as well. It's going to be Mystic Mad.
Yeah, good flex. I've seen them play Ninja quite strongly. I know when they first came into the server, I was convinced they were an alt, so you can know that they're pretty good when you automatically assume that they are somebody else.
Alrighty, and last up on the list here for this round of the draft is going to be Bar1234, selecting Danimals, also known as Monkey Noodles from Annihilation.
Yeah, good PvP for Danimals. Doesn't really, I think normally plays a lot of defense, so that's where I'm expecting him to go for Bar, but can flex into a lot of other roles, so I think that's a good flex pick for Bar there.
Yeah, so I believe that brings us to the end of round 10 of the draft. 10 rounds in, definitely a lot of players having gone, and we're starting to see some of the more creative picks so far. Anyone in that last round really stand out?
Personally, I think it's a surprise that Shoki and SimCB were left that late, to be honest. They were both very strong players.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. Yeah, I think definitely becoming a bit more creative in their picks, a bit less traditional. And yeah, it's starting to get really interesting in my opinion.
All right, so going into round 11, we've got Bar1234 selecting with the first pick again, the Snake Draft returning us to Bar for the first pick of this round. And we're going to see him select Glashy. Oh no, Trev. Trev, did you toggle on? What? Oh no.
We've had a minor studio break, but that's okay. Going back to the draft while we fix this, Glashy is a good pick for Bar, I think. Feller and Glashy have some really good chemistry on their offense and work well as soldiers. So I think knowing his players well from the Roxas is there.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, I don't know if stream caught that, but that was quite the experience with the studio. We've been told that Trev unfortunately left touchscreen on his laptop and somehow managed to destroy the studio while swiping across his screen.
It happens. It happens.
Oh boy.
All right. Anyway, back to the business.
So, next up on the list, we've got Rejected making the next selection. Rejected will be picking up Daphne with the 11th pick of the draft for him.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where Daph will fit into that roster. Could potentially make a return to Assassin, which I think could be a bit surprising, but it's also, I know medic defense is a laughed on role, but has some crazy good webs in the flag room. So we'll see where Dot decides to put her.
I wouldn't be surprised to see her on Medic D. Very strong player there.
Alrighty, next up on the list is going to be Azel making a selection, this time a recent pickup from Team Annihilation and a strong bulk offense player, I think it's fair to say. Azel has selected Chubbub.
Yeah, Chubb's a really good mind minute offense just to sub there. Maybe not more so the capping role, but just a hey, Chubb, go kill stuff kind of role.
Yeah, definitely a player who I think we'll be seeing a little more of in the team scene as well in the future. We've got Dave with the next pick, this time I believe from Citrix. Dave picking up Roche, R-O-C-H.
Yeah, strong PvP. I think I'm not too sure what he's going to play in competitive, but might be an offense support. I think he has played med off for CX as well, so it'll be interesting to see where he might fit into that roster, but I'm not entirely certain, to be honest.
All right, next up on the list, we're going to see Wolfie98 make a selection, also from the roster of Team Annihilation, and a longtime player better known to some as Reegs. Wolfie has selected Finder.
Yeah, most notably known for buying old map boosters at 3 in the morning. But definitely a really good PvPer in his own right.
All right, next up on the list is going to be Chewy's selection. Looks like Chewy, and I'm just going to confirm with the spreadsheet here because he wasn't immediately clear in the draft channel. Yes, I believe we are going to see Chewy pick up the player known as Yuji is God, or Lu, again favoring Delta Force.
Yeah, I don't know how much Delta Force is paying Chewy, but it's obviously a lot. So.
And definitely a player with a lot of experience on CTF and a lot of flexibility. So Delta Force stack progressing quite nicely, it would seem. Next up on the list is going to be Food Court making a selection that has absolutely no relationship to Food Court, I think it's fair to say. And a player who I definitely did not expect to see go on Archer before Padishley, I think it's fair to say. Food Court has selected Pepe.
Yes, the legend of Pepe continues by the looks of things. Definitely a late Archer pickup. Played well in the tournament. Obviously, I'm a bit biased there, being an Olympus member, but yeah, I think that's a good late pickup. Pretty much guaranteed for Food Court. I don't think anybody else is going to go for Pepe just because they were looking at other archers. So yeah.
All right, so finally, for this round, we are going to see Miski pick up a player who's been a member of TC for a while, but also a former member of the Templars and a longtime European player with a lot of experience under his belt. It's going to be Sona T.
Yeah, good flex onto some crucial defense roles, Sona. Can play assassin if needed, but might be the archer pick for Miski there. I think, just looking at that roster and how it's built so far, I think Sean or Tourney will probably be the archers.
Yeah, one of the two there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's going to wrap up this round of the draft. I don't think all that much has changed in the way of how teams are shaping up. Was there anyone who really stands out in that last round to you guys?
I think Daphne is a good late pick from Rejected there. probably not thought of by many other team leaders. So yeah, I think that's a nice late round pick.
I've got to agree with that. Also, Sean coming this late, very good flex as well. Good pick from Miski.
All right. So we're going to see Miski start off this next round of the draft, which I believe to be our 12th. We're going to be seeing him make a selection who I think was rated fairly highly by one of you in one of our earlier discussions. It's going to be Murdoch.
Yeah, I think I recall that being Trevor talking about Murdoch being a good Pyro player. So I think that will be a good late round pick for Pyro as well. Yeah.
I think this was a pick that was slept on quite a bit, considering this was the first pick after Trevor had mentioned his name. So perhaps a lot of people hadn't spotted him there or hadn't remembered it, but it's a very good pickup from Miski.
Yeah. Next up on the list is going to be Food Court selecting a player who was picked up by Ad Fundum just before the tournament finals, but I believe, unfortunately, did not see any playtime in that match. It's going to be Logic with a 1 instead of an I, and a Q instead of a C.
This is probably an offensive pick from Food Court, I believe. Looking at the sign-up, he signed up as Soldier Offense, so could be an interesting pick for their offense.
Yeah, it plays a lot of Soldier offense and is a pretty good Ninja Capper as well. So I'm sure whenever the time comes where Food Court's team needs a Ninja Cap, they will call upon Logic's expertise.
Okay, next up in the draft order is going to be Chewy, and Chewy is making another selection from Delta Force's pool of players. Again, looking to build team synergy based on an established roster, it would seem. You have to call it his strategy at this point. So we're going to see Chewy pick up Obi.
Another
Yeah,
crazy.
Trev, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say another Delta Force member.
Yeah, I think Trev summed it up well in the draft channel after he was picked. Trev goes, Obi going this late is a crime. And I got to agree, very good player.
Well, I was looking in the spreadsheet and I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want another teammate who isn't my leader to pick Obi. And I
Yeah.
was like shocked that Obi had not gone sooner.
Yeah, I also saw in the stream chat that maybe Chewy's just got the DF roster open and is just pulling names from that instead of actually looking at available players.
So with that in mind, I think it's fair to say that Chewy's next pick is either going to be maybe we see Rabius. What do you think?
Maybe, you never know.
All right. Next up on the list is going to be Wolfie98. Wolfie98 selecting a player who's been appearing a lot recently for the side of Team Annihilation, a player who's been slotted into a lot of different roles and has performed reasonably well, I think it's fair to say. It's going to be 12 Gopher 66.
A good flex on defense. Have seen him play a bit of Pyro as well. So that if TV can't make it, then maybe that's the backup Pyro pick, but also a good defense flex as well there.
All right, and it is finally time. I've been waiting for this all broadcast, and we finally have it. With the next pick in the draft, Dave has selected Paddishley.
Let's go, Paddy. Welcome to Team Dave. Very good flex pickup, obviously. Very happy with this.
I don't know what he wants me to play, but I'm here for him.
And we can definitely expect Paddishley to start ahead of the M5 on that roster.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I don't know why we would put him on Archer.
Yeah, bit of a
I'll have to call Dave out for throwing if that happened.
Yeah, definitely make sure Dave understands that before we plan, okay?
I got you this time.
Yeah. All right. Next up on the list is going to be Azel. Azel selecting the third horse, the final horse in the draft, I think it's fair to say. It's going to be Krabs.
Let's go, crowd.
Yeah, I'll step in here. Definitely a very strong defense player with a lot of experience, known for Ninja, known for Soldier, known for a variety of other classes, and a member of the legendary Dream Team 2.0 and Templars rosters. So someone with a pretty large pedigree in the game. Next up on the list is going to be the selection for Rejected. Rejected also picking another one of his teammates from Annihilation, and a player who is known to be a regular top 500 player in Overwatch, for what that's worth. It's going to be Pixelmon Lover.
Yeah, strong roster coming together for Rejected, I think. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Pixelmon Lover slots into that roster as well, but possibly on offense, I think, is my guess.
All right, and next up we've got Bar1234 making a selection in the 13th round, the last one of this 13th round. 12th round, I believe. And that is going to be _Twizzy_.
Yeah, so another pretty late night player. Plays a lot of defense, and can imagine seeing them maybe on Ninja. But yeah, interesting pick from, what's his name? Bar. Sorry, I got distracted by the glass breaking in the background.
I just have to keep Winter out of here.
No, you're not allowed. There's too many Ultramains in this room.
Yeah, if we leave too many more in the room, the studio will collapse. It will be too heavy to carry.
Yeah.
All right, so with Twizzy having been selected, that means we've wrapped up the 12th round. I've asked this question every round, but anyone really stand out to you from round 12 of the draft?
My votes there are good to actually 3 stand out from Paddy, Obi, and Mercake. All good late picks.
Okay, that's too nice, but thank you.
No, Paddy definitely being an absolute steal upper echelon of players, I think it's fair to say.
Definitely.
Next up, then, is going to be Bar1234, leading us off in round 13. Bar is going to be selecting an offense player from Ed Fundum who had a little bit of an impact in the finals and was definitely a strong new pickup from that roster. Wasn't quite able to duplicate the success of Yubao and Savoy on that roster, but definitely a player who did well considering how little time he had to practice with the team going into that finals. It's going to be Tom D53.
Yeah, starting to shape up nicely with that offense. Definitely very strong, especially with Nin as a very early off med to support these later round offense picks for Bar. I think he's shaped a pretty nice offense for himself.
All right, and Rejected is going to be making the next selection here in round 13. It's going to be a player who I think many of you have seen around the CTF community Discord and the servers recently. A player who's been very active and is known by a name, and that name is Sam.
Very good. I like this late pick actually. Good assassin main, and I'm surprised to see he hasn't gone earlier, to be honest.
Yeah, good assassin and scout. If they want to scout on defense, I would go for Sammy and put Daphne on assassin, and then Mario can switch into it for recovery and that kind of stuff. But yeah, Sammy, good late round pick for sure.
Yep.
All right. Next up on the list is going to be Azel. Azel selecting a interesting choice here, I think it's fair to say, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. Azel will be selecting Cherry or Chair Bear.
Well, Azel is no how do I put this? He's a simp, right? So I think it's not surprising to see him pick Cherry for the team.
Alrighty, very spicy take from Trev there. We'll see what impact that ends up having on Team Azel. Obviously, the best team still, I think it's fair to say. But next up on the list is going to be Dave. Dave selecting interesting player here as well. A bit of a newer player to the team, but one who's shown a lot of potential. It's going to be Abracadabrix.
Yeah, I think a bit of a slept-on player a lot of the time, Abra. Plays Assassin quite well and can flex onto a lot of roles. So I think that's a nice pickup for Dave in the late round, a good flex player to fill in any roles that might not be available on the day.
All right, Wolfie98 has the next pick of the draft, and we're going to see a PPM regular get selected in this 13th round. We're going to see Wolfie98 select B-Swan.
I think I really like Bama as a person. He's got a good flex of roles as well. He's been starting to play a bit of offense, but has a great range of defensive capabilities. His scout probably something people haven't seen a lot of, and yeah, really excited to see Bama into that squad. I think that's a good late round pick as well.
I gotta agree. Really good late round pick there. Really good flex. Can fit in pretty much anywhere. Good pick from Wolfie.
All right, next up on the list, we're going to be seeing a player who the chat has been clamoring for in droves. That's right. We're going to be seeing Chewy pick up the Brick Wall Blockade.
And that's all you have to say. Brick Wall Blockade. That's all. That's the only description you need. It's a great pick for Chewy.
Very happy for Avi to be picked up here. Obviously came from Mindplex pretty recently. Not too experienced on the server, but very good at PvP. I like it. Good pickup.
Okay. And next up, we're going to have Food Court after a little bit of prompting from our tournament hosts here. We'll be selecting a legendary CTF player, known to many far and wide and a name feared by all. It's going to be Big Bird 404.
Yeah, Bird's another good offense player that not enough people know about. He's a really strong soldier. Learned the game pretty well, pretty quickly, and definitely someone that Food's got a lot of synergy with. So, yeah, excited to see Big Bird into this tournament. Really interested to see how he's going to play.
All right, and with the last pick of the 13th round, we're going to see Miski make his selection. Miski selecting a player who has been an integral part of TC's offense recently, known for their soldier and their engineer. It's going to be Glaze111, as Trev takes out another part of our studio.
Oh my god, sorry guys.
But
Poor
Glaze,
studio.
Yeah, Glaze is good flex, good supporter as well. Very good at supporting his offense and killing off pretty much anyone who's coming after the medic. So yeah, I think Glaze is a great late round pick as well. Definitely, I think Miski's got a very strong offense building.
all right, so we did see some interesting pickups in that last round. There are definitely a lot of players who I think we all said were underrated, but who stands out as the biggest sleeper pick in round 13?
I would probably go for Sam or B-Swan. I'm probably going to say B-Swan, just because of the range of classes that he can fill in.
Those were my two as well, to be honest. I think Sam's a good pick for Rejected's team because probably will fill in on Assassin there, but very good picks for both teams there.
Okay, so next up, in the draft is going to be Miski again, starting us off for round 14. Miski's going to be picking up a player who was definitely a major part of the Templars for a number of years and is now chilling on Team Annihilation with a lot of other former Templars players. Wonder how that happened. It's going to be Moltak.
Yeah, I think Moltek going this late is due in part because he said he wasn't very available. I think if he had been able to commit to this tournament, we would have seen him go in like the first handful of rounds, or the first 5 or so, maybe.
Next up on our list is going to be Food Court, selecting a player with a very interesting set of skills, known for his abilities on Pyro, Mage, and Bulk classes. It's going to be Killer.
Yeah, I think that's a good fill. Good for filling in roles for Food Court. Yeah, like Killers can play a good range of defensive classes and can push onto offense if need be, but I don't think that will be necessary for Food Court's roster at the moment. But yeah, I think Killers is a great late round pickup and good flex.
Alrighty, next up on the list is going to be Chewy. Chewy will be making a selection, again known to many who frequent the CTF community Discord. And an interesting player in his own right, it's going to be Lazy Nemo.
Yeah, again, Nemo's a good flex into a lot of roles. I think he will probably be playing offense in that roster, and it's a pick that's outside of DF, so I think Chewy might have actually run out of all these DF players, unfortunately.
Yeah, it seems the stack has not quite lasted long enough. We'll see if he returns to it in later rounds, in the final couple of rounds. But next up in our draft order is going to be Wolfie98, and after a little bit of prompting from our hosts, he's selected an interesting archer main, Valicon.
I think this is an interesting pick from Wolfie. I've seen Valicon about in CAS quite a bit. Decent archer, and I believe he started playing PPMs a bit more recently. So interesting pick.
Yeah. Next up on the list, we've got Dave making his selection. Dave is going to be picking up a player whose name references one of the most oppressive playstyles in any game. It's going to be Stall.
I can speak a bit about Ryan. He's once again from Mindplex, not too experienced with the game, but has been about on multiple teams for a little while now. Very good bulk. Can play either offense or defense. I like this as a late pick from Dave.
All right, and next up on the list is going to be Azel making a selection from CTF's very own mod team, and one of the more terrifying Australian laggers that you could possibly face in any server. It's going to be Oramelt.
Yeah, beware the ping. We all know that Aura can do some spoopy stuff, but we'll probably be filling in for some offense there for Azel. And yeah, as another great late round pick. Yeah.
All right. Rejected is going to be making the next to last pick of this round, and he'll be picking up a player who was on Ad Fundum's roster for the finals, another one of their pickups that they made to replace players who were leaving, and a pretty interesting player. I think it's fair to say, a player who has a lot of potential. It's going to be Sling.
Yeah, good offense flex for Rejected there. Fills the same roles as Ujansky's, so it will be interesting to see where Slingy fits in for that roster. But yeah, good offensive flex late on.
And I suppose I do have to issue a correction as well. It seems that Australia has not, in fact, invaded and taken over Singapore, so I'm afraid I cannot call Oramelt Australian. My apologies.
I mean, we accept her in spirit. It's okay.
Honorary lagger, yeah.
Singapore, of course, having its own proud history of CTF players represented elsewhere in the draft as well. We may see a couple players from there. Next up on the list is going to be Bar 1234, making another archer selection in this round. Although this player has been known to flex a bit more than Valicon, at least in my experience, it's going to be F1 Brown.
Yes, another Australian enters the mix. Yeah, F1's not only a really nice guy and has a beautiful accent, plays a good amount of archer, but also a good amount of other roles. Interestingly, good NG player as well. I think a lot of people will be surprised if he does actually manage to get on NG, how much damage he will do.
All right, and that's going to be the last pick of the 14th round. So the 15th round will be starting soon. We've got just a couple more rounds for teams to fill out their rosters. Guys, do you think that there are any players that really should be picked up in these last two rounds? Do you think the teams, as we've seen them so far, have any holes that you would like to see filled with the last couple of rounds that really should be addressed?
I think the last couple rounds we're just going to see flex players who both can talk in calls and who are available generally to play in matches. If they're because these last few people are realistically just going to be the substitutes. So you want people who are like always going to be around to sub.
I agree. I think most teams have got their important holes filled right now, and so you're just going to see people who can fill in multiple roles to be picked in the last few rounds.
Okay, so with the first pick of the 15th round, we're going to be seeing Bar 1234 make his next to last selection, I believe, and that's going to be Scarpa from Team Annihilation.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't have a lot to say about Scarpa, but I think good. Like again, all these late round
Scarpa
picks
just
are pretty
plays like
good.
scout, assassin, mage.
Yeah, like good flexing into defense as well. So I think always good selections in these later rounds.
All right, Team Rejected is going to be next up in the draft. Rejected is going to be making an interesting selection here as well, I think it's fair to say. He'll be picking up a former moderator, I believe. If I'm not wrong, it's going to be Forlib.
Yeah, strong PvP, and yeah, like we'll probably be playing a lot of defense, I believe. Forlib can play a bit of ninja as well if need be for Rejected. So yeah, again, like all these late round picks are going to be very good. He's a good communicator as well. So yeah.
Alrighty. Next up on the list is going to be Azel selecting a player from Team Spicy Banana. But it's not someone who's at all new to CTF. Instead, it is Lugia.
Yeah, nice to see Lugia back in the tournament. Hopefully we'll see her get to flex onto offense for Azel there. And yeah.
Yeah, the former leader of TFW for a time, if I'm not wrong, and longtime roster mainstay for TC as well. So next up in the draft is going to be Team Dave. Team Dave actually taking a page out of Chewy's book and preventing him from really completing the Delta Force stack. Dave will be picking up Rento Kage.
Yeah, I think nice late round pick. Good flex into a lot of roles. And yeah, denies Chewy of the full DF stack.
Yeah, we love to see Chewy's plan get ruined.
So Wolfie is going to have the next pick in this 15th round. Wolfie is going to be selecting Powder for his roster.
I believe Powder is a Mindplexer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, believe so.
Pretty good at PvP. Interesting to see a Mindplexer be chosen, as their game sense is not probably going to be the best. So it's going to be that weird choice of, do you want a really good PvPer to play who may not know the game very well, or someone who's not as good who knows the game very well?
Yeah, definitely. If you can get that player adjusted to CTF, though, they can probably start to perform well by the end of the tournament. So definitely a lot of potential there. So next up in the draft, we're going to see Chewy select a player with a BK history. I think it's fair to say it's going to be Informative, also known as Fire Alarm Freak.
Yeah, I think that's a really strong offensive pick at a very late round. Or at least I've seen him play a lot of offense quite recently. So I think that's really good from Chewy, picking up quite a strong PvPer as well.
All right. So next up in the draft, we're going to be seeing Food Court make a selection, and player who I think may be known to some here, it's going to be Mr. Ant 97.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that's more AU representation. But yeah, has been playing a bit of offense. Fairly certain. I haven't seen him for a while, but when I did used to see him, he played a lot of offense and learned the game pretty quickly. So it's a strong offense pick at the late stages for Food Court as well.
All right, so next up in the draft, the last pick in our 15th round, we're going to be seeing Miski pick up Island Dinger.
Yeah, so mainstay of mainly an assassin player, but can flex onto Necro quite a lot. And yeah, like a nice late round pick as well. Has a big effect in casual games and has learnt the game pretty well. So yeah, I think Bunny's a good pick for a very late round in there with Miski.
Yeah. Alrighty, so we've got one more round to go in the draft. And just to clarify, the players who are not going to be drafted in this tournament, because we will not draft every single player who signed up, are going to be put in a pool of available substitutes. So details on that will be available. But with this last round, with just 8 picks left, who would you guys like to see get picked up for these teams?
I think there's quite a few offensive players that haven't been picked up just yet that I'd like to see come in, and a couple of possibly strong defensive players as well in some bulks and some ninjas. So hoping to see them pop in here. So yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely got some interesting players left in these rounds. We've got players including Jillin, we've got Italian Penguin, we've got the legendary Red Boo 123, and we've also got players like Godman, Leona, and Alternate Source. So definitely players who are still very active and could contribute to a team quite notably. But we'll see who we have with these last 8 picks of the tournament. We're going to be starting off with bar 1, 2, 3, 4, one last time. So bar is going to be selecting. Oh, no, sorry, I've got this in the wrong order. It's going to be Miski. My apologies. It's going to be Miski making a selection, one who's dropped all this way despite being on the 2020 tournament finals winners. It's going to be Ike Multi.
Stare at BM5. What will he say?
All right, Ike's a good pickup. Not too active from what I've seen anymore, but good on defense, good bulk. So I think that could be a really good late pickup. To be fair, I know Dave was eyeing him up as well. So
All right, Ike rounding out the roster of Team Miski. He's got all 16 of his selections right now. Next up on the roster, and the pick order is going to be Food Court. Food Court picking up a member of our 2020 tournament finals desk and strong player in her own right. It's going to be Sloppy Slapster.
Yeah, Sloppy. I think where Sloppy shines is her ability to communicate and talk on a defensive role.
Very much so. Can also flex a few classes now, which is very good to see. And once again, one of our predictions where lots of flex players will be going in these last few rounds. Good to see. Also a referee for this tournament.
Oh yeah, I forgot about. We never even mentioned referees, but whatever.
Yeah, well, they don't impact the draft all that much, although I guess teams could try and select referees in order to influence the way the tournament goes. I don't think that would go very well, but you know. Now, we're going to see the next pick and last pick of the draft for Chewy go to another player on Team Annihilation and a long-standing tournament player, long-standing player in the CTF scene. It's going to be Charisse.
Yeah, happy to see her come into this draft, even if it's the last round. Has good flex in defense, plays a bit of ninja, plays a bit of bulk, and can also support well on offense. So yeah, great last round pick. I know she flexes into a lot of roles, often offers to Archer as well in stalemates. So really nice last round pick for Chewy there.
Yeah, and while you can't disagree with the value of that pick, you have to admit Chewy appears to have betrayed Delta Force and left Pancake Lazaro in the draft pool.
Wow,
Yeah, so
what a bastard.
Ooh.
I think
Chewy
DF might have to boycott.
Chewy betraying DF at the last minute. Next up in the draft pool is going to be Wolfie98. He'll be selecting another Singaporean player in the draft and a long-time CTF regular who has returned recently, a player known perhaps best for her time on Majestic. It's going to be Jillian.
Yeah, always nice to see.
Yeah,
always nice to see old players return, especially for tournaments. So it'll be nice to see Jillian play again with Wolfie.
Alrighty. Now we're going to see Dave do something that's going to make chat very happy. It appears that he has picked up the slack for Chewy and selected one last member of Delta Force. It's going to be Pancake Lazaro.
Yeah, I'm going to call out now. Dave's team has officially won the tournament.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pancake's a good pickup. He's a really nice kid as well, but plays a lot of good offense. Is a really good soldier. So yeah, very nicely done, Dave, in that last round. And happy to see Pancake on Team Dave. Or the Bedtime Boys, as I'm sure will be called.
Definitely a nightmare with his single-minded focus on archers, depending on the match. So we are going to see the last three picks of the draft come in here. We've got Azel making one last selection to round out his roster, and that's going to be the legendary Elfin Engineer main, Italian Penguin.
Yeah, I am pumped for Italian to be in this tournament. Importantly, a PPM host, so he knows a lot of these players, knows a lot of the roles, and has probably a good amount of knowledge as well outside of the classes that he plays. Strong support on offense. When he caps, it is incredible to watch. So really, really happy to see Italian in these last few rounds for Azel.
All right, just two picks left, and Rejected is going to place one of these picks in a direction that chat might not have been expecting after all. Rejected will be selecting the legendary Greek player, Greek god himself, Red Boo 123.
I mean, Greek God says it all, really. decent player, can play a lot of classes. We saw with like our flex predictions here, and I'm sure a lot of people would be happy to see Red Bull picked up here. As I can see from the stream chat right now, actually.
Yes, the chat going wild with this pick who some people would have expected to go sooner, I assume.
Yep,
So,
glad to see that.
we've got one last pick of the tournament. Bar 1, 2, 3, 4 bringing us home. He started us off as well, so it's interesting to see where this draft has gone. You do have a decent-sized pool of players left, but out of it, he's going to be selecting Mackie with the last pick of the draft today.
Yeah, I think that is an awesome last pick for the draft. Probably not well known for a lot of the US players, but he's a very strong ninja. And would like to see him play ninja for Bar's team there. I think that's a great pickup in that very last round, and probably somebody that a lot of people have either underestimated or didn't know what he played. So really excited for that. And that is the end of the draft.
Alrighty, so we've got our 8 teams with their 17-man rosters, including the leaders. Before we wrap up, let's go through and take a look at these teams. Let's get started with the team that started us off. Team Bar 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, it's important to remember as well that these are provisional names. The team leaders will be changing their names, most likely, and Dave has already selected the name Bedtime Boys for his team, so take that as you will. With that said, Bar 1, 2, 3, 4's roster includes himself, G. Henry, Ninsanity, and Razorgon as his protected picks, and then Imposed, Fella 001, Snowbreak, Versions, Autistic, Haha Get Lost, Danimals, Glash, Twizzy, Tom D53, F1 Brown, Scarpa, and Mackie as his selections.
Yeah, I think a very intimidating offense coming out of that. Obviously, G. Henry is probably going to lock down any flag room, so not to be underestimated at all, especially with Kev on Archer. So I think Bar's done really well in this draft, picked up a lot of good players, and will be really competitive in this tournament.
Yeah, definitely demonstrating that he can select a strong roster. It was also interesting to see that he was actually the first player to select a dedicated medic main in the draft, if I am not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that
that's
just
correct.
yeah, I think that speaks to the plan that seems to be put in place, that he would secure a medic offense main and then go on to build an offense around it in the later rounds.
But yeah, definitely not something you would expect to see in the draft, where Bar has apparently schmozzed the rest of the leaders and picked one of the top-rated pyros and one of the top-rated medics early on in the draft. Definitely a masterful play from him.
Yeah, medic offs are always important, always slept on. So very happy to see them appreciated for once.
All right, moving on. Team Rejected includes Rejected, of course, as well as Rikov's participated and Wintergreen 3 as his protected players, and the Spartan 33, Vote, Bloomishly, Epislen, Eugianskis, Magnificent Doubtser Fridge, Mystic Mad, Daphne, Pixelmon Lover, The Name is Sam, Sling, Forlib, and Red Boo 123 on his team.
Yeah, I think nice and dynamic roster there. Has a good balance between defense and offense, and a lot of flex if need be. So, yeah, good protected picks as well. Picking up a good Archer main, good defense and two defense flex or an offense flex for Mario. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting roster that Dot's built up throughout these rounds, and very strong.
I'm going to see if we can get one of the leaders in the call to talk about their thought processes while drafting.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
that'll be interesting. I do see Azel and Chewy waiting around, so it'll be interesting to see who we end up with. As for Rejected's roster, they definitely did seem to pick up quite a few strong PvPers. How do you feel their medic situation is going to work out with both Bloomishly and Epsilon on the roster?
I think we're going to see Bloom focus medical, maybe something on either offensive bulk or defensive bulk.
Yeah, I mean, Epsilon has been playing an interesting role with Annihilation, where he plays bulk offense. Some might suggest that there is a little bit of strategy behind that, but I wouldn't necessarily presume to know about that myself. Also interesting to see them pick up a lot of the players from Ad Fundum's offense in the finals, notably Yujianski's and Sling. So, without further comments, I think we're going to make a little adjustment here and perhaps move on to discussing Team Miski. I know we're going a bit out of order, but we do have Miski here in the call with us. Again, the roster for Team Miski is going to be Miski, Aussie, Carowinds, College Degree, Salty Ivan, Tourney, Code Bastion, A Frog Dog, Eeyore6, Sake001, Ska, Sona T, Murdoch, Glaze111, Multac, Islandinger, and Ike Multi.
Yeah, so interesting roster. I guess I might start with a question to Miski. We're looking at the protected picks, and I know we reacted early on. Aussie and Carowinds, obviously very strong picks, having your back-to-back drafts, and then College Degree being the third protected pick. So I think we were wondering around the thought process around that particular pick.
Yeah, so College Degree is a player who I think is actually very flexible and strong on Ninja and Assassin. I think he's actually one of the best ninjas in the game, and I think a lot of people do underrate him. I focus my draft more around getting flexible players that are good PvPers instead of going for stuff like Pyro and Assassin like other people did early.
Yeah, so with that in mind, actually, I'm curious about your Pyro situation. How do you expect to handle that with the players you've drafted?
Yeah, so I picked definitely some Pyros who are more or less inactive, but I think I do have a lot of depth. I think Code is a good Pyro, although he does have the activity issues, but I also got Murdoch and Multac as subs later on, and I think they can both play Pyro pretty well.
Alrighty, and then we also saw you draft Aussie in the first round, who's an offensive player. I see you've supplemented him with a few other offense mains here as well, Glaze, Ivan, and so on and so forth. Do you feel that you've drafted effectively enough in that area? And were there any players that you might have liked to pick up that you missed?
Yeah, so I think overall I have a pretty well-rounded offense. I think getting Ire late on Medic was actually like a really good pick for me. Aussie is obviously going to play the more like bulk and stuff like that. And then I have Saki and Ivan who both play Elf and Chemist, and they're both solid cappers as well. One player I kind of wanted to get that went pretty early was Exedra. He's a very flexible player, can obviously play that Chemist and Elf, and I was really going in on that for this draft. Snowberg is another player who I kind of was trying to get a little bit later, but went earlier than I expected.
So Miski, when you were watching the leaders pick, who was a pick that totally just shocked you when they were drafted, specifically in the early rounds?
It's a very good question. I'm actually curious on Food Court picking Pig 3 first.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, definitely.
I think Assassin is a very strong role, and Pig 3 is probably the best Assassin in the draft. But I don't think it's strong to the point where like you'd first pick it, especially going into the tournament with the old Assassin. And then I guess another pick that was interesting to me, Rejected and Azel's third picks, Wintergreen and Fire Turtle. Again, strong players, but I think they could have gotten slightly more value by that point in the draft. Players like Ducks, Rain, College Degree, etc. were still up.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's been a rather interesting bit of insight here with Miski. With that in mind, any closing thoughts for us? Anything you'd like to let the stream know about your team?
I guess the one thing I can say is it might be surprising seeing what a couple of my players are going to play role-wise. I drafted a lot of flex players. Mostly some of those like ninja players, like college degree and Tourney, that can kind of move around. And I also plan to utilize my subs pretty heavily. So yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on here and giving us some insight. We're excited to see how your team performs in the tournament and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. So we're moving on to Team Azel, returning to our regular draft order here. Again, that team is going to include Azel, of course, as well as Chickdee, Bosque, Fire Turtle, Sir Leo, Lar, Seago, Trevor, Fivehead, Rongerbox, Scapesar, Chubub, 360, Krabs, Chairbear, Oramelt, Lugia _ and Italian Penguin.
Yeah, I think overall started really well. Azel picking up Chickdee and Boss and Apyro in those protected picks. Leo, I think, is a good steal very early on for offense, and then Lara is his offensive medic. And I think he's built a pretty good roster around himself.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing I noticed at first is how strong the defense is on Azel's team.
Yeah, no, with that in mind, I know a couple of us might be a little bit biased because of circumstance, but Pattersley and Ben, do you feel that Azel managed to draft effectively enough for offense? I know we all commented on him drafting for defense early on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think maybe almost potentially overdrafted. Maybe. If that's obviously depending on who can show up, but you're seeing Leo, Lara, Fivehead, Ronga can flex on, Scape can flex on, Oreo, Lugia, and Italian. So it's about 8 of the 16 players Azel got to choose, which is a nice split for him. But I think offensively, I think they'll be okay. I think Leo and Five will carry a lot of the burden of capping, and whoever else is flexing onto offense will help clear out. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how the offense goes. But yeah, I'm not particularly worried about the offense.
I think I agree with Leo and Five. They're very, very good cappers, and obviously Lara's an incredible medic as well. So if the rest of the offense can just kind of distract and support as much as they can, I think he'll be completely fine on offense.
All right, so if I'm not mistaken, we've got another leader here to talk about their team's draft, and that's going to be Dave. Before we jump right into that, Dave's roster, in addition to himself, is going to include BM5, Saiyan, and Carson as the protected picks, and then Sayo, I Lost the Game, Cupcake, Gengar Sleep, K-Rex, Pi, Hamza CX, Roche 2, Pattersley, Abracadabrax, Stall, Rentokage, and Pancake Lazaro. So, Dave, how did you go about setting up your roster?
Yeah, so well, basically, I went through the player signups yesterday. Tiered all the players, not based on their class, but mainly just based on overall skill. Then I actually went through and, well, for some classes such as Medic, Pyro, and Assassin, I decided that it would be best if I ranked those specifically, as I feel like they're key roles that can be quite game-changing if you don't have like a good enough one. Then my strategy for the actual draft, when it came to it, I saw BM5 was available, and I ranked him as the best archer. So I decided to take BM5. And I also believe he has good leadership qualities to help me lead Bedtime Boys to the draft tournament victory. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask some other questions, but first off, right off the bat, are you really ranking BM5 ahead of me? More importantly, are you? And more importantly, are you ranking him ahead of Pattersley?
That's a good point.
I feel like after playing against BM5 on several occasions now, I've realized how terrifying he actually is.
That was
Quite
beautifully
scary, man.
diplomatic. Beautifully diplomatic.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to play against him, so why not just add him to the roster?
Yeah,
Well,
I
there you have
definitely liked
it,
your first pick. Yeah, sorry, I was just going to compliment Dave on his first pick. I thought BM5 was definitely a good first round pick and someone that I thought would go quite early.
Yeah.
How did you go about feeling about the rest of your roster? There's a few former AF players in there as well, who I'm sure you're happy to have back.
Yeah. So I highlighted the fact that I wanted a good assassin, a good pyro, a good archer, and a good medic. I got the archer in BM5, but I looked at the other picks and kind of realized that people weren't actually going for the pyros, the archers, and the assassins, like I thought they might. So just decided to go for Evan, who's a great bulk, probably also another one of the best at their job. I think it would definitely help shore up the defense for the bedtime boys. Helping tuck everyone into bed. Then I also decided, well, for third round, I kind of realized that, well, I'm a flex, but I would prefer to play defense for my team, and that's what I've kind of assigned myself to. But I realized Ben was an archer, so defensive, and Evan a bulk, so also defensive. So I needed to go out and get an defender. There's quite a few options, but I went for Carson because I've been playing a lot with him recently. He's in another team of which I'm a part of, the Wheelchairs. Big shout out to them. And I really think he has good coordination qualities, which I think can benefit. And also, Evan and Ben are also part of this team, so we already have that chemistry together. And then other players, well, SYO is just a really good flex player. Another member of the Wheelchairs, got a little bit of stack there. I lost the game. Quite an underrated assassin, older player. Definitely someone who I thought stood out in the most recent 2020 CTF tournament. Cupcake, obviously a really good medic. Then I wanted to go out and strengthen my offense even more with, I mean, is it Gengar or Genjo? It's quite bad that I don't know how to pronounce his name.
I think Gengar. We'll go Gengar.
We'll go
Yeah.
Gengar. I could go on for hours about the way I picked my team, but overall, happy with my team. I think it's one of the most rounded ones. Like I know I have a good starting roster as well as great options who can replace if necessary. So yeah.
All right. And before we wrap up, I did want to ask you as well. We had Missy come in here and talk about how he was not really preferencing picking up the best pyro, the best archer, and so on and so forth. How he was preferencing flexible players. And you mentioned that the way that other teams were drafting impacted how you made your picks later on after BM5. So do you feel that it was a more effective strategy to go after flexible players, or would you have preferred to really just stick to your original strategy of drafting the best impact classes first and then building your roster out around them?
I mean, I definitely think I did need to go out and get a good couple of flexible players, but it obviously wouldn't have been possible for me to get, like, I don't know, the top assassin, the top pirate, and the top archer, for example. So in the end, it probably actually worked out better for me because then I could actually save my picks for like pyro till later on, and get like say stronger flex players such as SYO earlier on. But I still think like getting Ben, for example, with like a top pick like that can be very influential and should help me try and achieve these wins.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us here on the stream. We wish you the best of luck again in the tournament and hope things go well for the bedtime boys.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so we're going to be moving on to our next roster here. We're going to be looking at the roster of Wolfie98. who's also picked up Exedra, Gamron, and Netflix as his protected picks. And then additionally, we're going to be seeing Two Stational, Diamond League, Pudgy, Doodleberry 7, Color, Rave, Quarterpan, Finder, 12th goal for 66, B-Swan, Valicon, Powder, and Jillen on the roster. Anything stand out there to you guys?
Well, just looking at his list in those protected picks, he's protected a pretty good assassin and a pretty good pyro very well there. Good early round picks. Gam's probably up there with the best assassins, probably compared to Pick 3 or Love Hazel and Coco quite often. And obviously Netflix is only second to G Henry. So yeah, I think there's really strong protected picks there from Wolfie. And then the way he's built the rest of his roster, it's going to be very intimidating to go up against that team. Very nicely put together.
Now, we did see Exedra as Wolfie's first pick, and it's definitely an interesting style of pick here compared to what a lot of the other teams are going for in the first round. Do you guys feel that Exedra's role as a dedicated offense player with a lot of flexibility warranted being a first round pick here compared to some of the players that went after him?
I've got to say, I think Exedra is a very good first round pick. I believe Miski mentioned him as like a player he wanted to get, but obviously couldn't because Wolfie got him in first round, and I think that would be the same for a lot of other team leaders. Very good offensive flex, can also play Archer and stuff, and if Wolfie didn't pick him, I'd have expected him to go very soon after that. Definitely first 2 rounds.
All right. Go ahead.
Sorry, you should just his ability to flex onto all those roles and play them at a standard that is pretty much equivalent to the people who main those roles. It's so good for a roster to be able to flex that much just through one player. So yeah, I think a very valuable first round pick.
All right. Now, with that said, Wolfie definitely picked up some big names in certain areas, but not so much in others. How do you think his team's Archer situation is going to pan out? I know Wolfie's played a fair amount of it himself in the past, but he also did pick up a couple players who could play that role in Quarterpan and Valicon.
Yeah, I would be surprised to see anybody else play Archer. There is definitely a few people in there who can, like obviously Exedra and Wolfie can, Beast One or Obama can. But yeah, I definitely think it'll be between Valicon and Quarterpan, depending on their availabilities. And probably not the Archer mains that have got a lot of coverage recently, but still quite strong and have definitely been working towards some really good gameplay.
All right, so we've got a couple more teams to look at here before we wrap up. The first of those is going to be Team Chewy. Chewy himself obviously being a valuable player and the first one on the roster, also including DTJ5511, Brandino B, and DucksFan101 as the protected picks, and then Spades, Pedro, Sabwu, Tireless, Kavivi, Hayes, SimCB, Lou, Obi, Blockade, Nemo, Informative, and Charisse as their remaining roster. Anyone stand out on that lineup?
Yeah, I think there's some great picks in there. Obviously, going through the DF roster pretty solidly. I know we talked quite early on about DTJ being a first-round pick, but looking at those top 3, I think DTJ is helping solidify that defense. Brandino is the main Archer, probably second to BN5 and Boss, and then Dux is in there to off. So it just looks like Chewy has decided I'll go a good defense player, a good insta kill, and then a good offensive player, and then fill out the roster from there. So I think he's done a pretty good job in that. Obviously, Sabu is a restricted player, so when he comes in, I think that will help solidify. But yeah, I think a strong roster coming into the tournament.
All right. Seems we've got Trev back in the call, which is always good to see. Now, we did bring this up earlier, but Chewy was picking a lot of players from Delta Force, and we did speculate for a little while that maybe his strategy was to pick an established roster that had practice working together. Do you think that's going to make a difference, even with the other new players in his core in the tournament?
I think it always helps to have people who can work well together. We've seen a couple of other leaders pick players who they're familiar with. For example, Bar did that. And I think having, especially an offense that works well together, is very key to working well. And I think this could pay off for Chewy.
Of course, we do also have a few wild cards on Chewy's roster, players who you might expect to see doing very well if things work out in their favor. Obviously, we do have Sabu, who's not going to be able to play the first few games, but could have a big impact later on in the tournament. But then you also have a few players who we haven't seen as much of in the CTF team scene, including Blockade, Lazy Nemo, and Informative, at least Informative recently. So do you think any of those players are really going to be able to take the team up to the next level and maybe have a big impact in the draft team's tournament?
I think it's always really interesting seeing newer players join the game because you never really know how they're going to adapt to things. But I know Avi quite well, and he's obviously a very good player on Mindplex. I think if he's able to put in the time and really learn the game properly and work well with his team, then I think he could be a really good pick. I like the tactic from Chewy at the end, though.
Yeah, definitely. It did seem like he has both an established core that you can expect to work pretty well together, and then a few potential impact players who the team doesn't necessarily have to rely on, but could definitely have an impact if things work out in their favor. So we've got one last team to look at. It's going to be Team Food Court. Food Court, of course, being an offensive medic main mostly himself. He has Pick 3, or Love Hazel and Coca, Mikey, and Rain as his protected picks, a core group that's all from the Buckettes. And then subsequently selected AP Literature, 93, Slurp, Jump Rope is God, also known as Link, Jactation, 2008, also known as Kriz, Shoki, _ Pepe, his brother, Logic, Big Bird 404, Killer, Mr. Ant 87, and Sloppy Slapster. So definitely a mix of Buckettes and Olympus players on there, as well as a few others. One last time, does anyone stand out on that roster as a real impact player that could take Food Court's team over the top?
Yeah, I think those first, how many is that? Probably like first 10 players in particular, really strong. Like if you were coming up against that roster, you would be a bit worried and have to be putting a few plans in place. So I think really like a lot of that roster is really strong. I think later down into those later drafts, into round 13, there's a few players in there that not many people will be familiar with, and then a lot of flex that can go on to fill in roles unexpectedly or expectedly. So I like Food Court's roster. Obviously, I'm a bit biased because reasons, but yeah, I think he managed to build it quite well, and it'll be interesting to see how they play out. But yeah, sorry, I didn't even answer your question, boss. I think Pig 3 was definitely a very strong first round pick that probably wasn't expected. So yeah.
All right, and they did also select AP Literature, again, a teammate of Food Courts on Olympus, but also the first real dedicated mage main in the draft. Do you think that's something that other teams should have prioritized a little bit more?
No, because mage is very map dependent on its success.
Yeah, which is why I think it's important to note that AP can play assassin as well and flex onto something else. So he's not just a mage pet player, but I definitely think Food Court has a good idea of how impactful AP can be onto an offense. So yeah, I think it's not something that other teams slept on. It's just something that a lot of other teams will prioritize other picks on first, just because a mage player isn't as important to a defense. unless they're Trevor, AP Literature, or A Frog Dog.
Yeah, now with that in mind, I've got one last question to ask here, and it actually revolves around Food Court's offense a little bit more. We've actually seen him pick up a lot of dedicated offense players. Obviously, Rain jumps to mind. Mikey was playing offense a little bit further by guess, although we know it's obviously not the only thing he plays. And then they've also picked up some more experienced offense means like Tractation on the roster as well. Do you feel that that offense is going to be one of the best in the tournament? Do you think they're only middle of the pack or maybe even bad compared to the rest? How do you think that's going to shape up?
I think it's definitely strong. Rain is a great support for Food going into offense. Link and Chak are good main cappers. So yeah, I think Food has a pretty good standing with that team, especially as a team leader who mains off medic, which you've already established a role and have that stuck in immediately without having to, adapt to anything. So I think Food's built a good offense around him, and yeah, I think it'll be up there with one of the top offenses. I think slight bias, Dave's team will have a good offense, bar and Rejected as well, and Wolfie. Really, I think a lot of people have recruited well, but yeah, I don't think they're the best of the best, but definitely not the worst either. That was very long-winded.
So, with that in mind, we've gone through all of the teams. We've gone through all of the picks. We've got a very exciting draft teams tournament coming up. But before we go, I've got one last question for all three of our wonderful hosts. If you could give us a top 3 teams in your own opinion, what do you think those teams are going to be?
In order or no?
Yeah, let's go third pick, second pick, first pick.
All right. All right. We'll just say we'll avoid bias and not say the team that we're in.
Okay. Yeah.
So third pick, I would go for Chewy. Second, I would go for Wolfie, and then first for Azel. At this point in time.
Mine's looking similar to that. I was going to go Chewy third pick, Misky second pick, Azel first pick.
Interesting. Trev, any opinions on that?
Oh, Azel for sure.
All right, Team Azel looking like an early favorite in the minds of our panelists, and I think that's obviously correct because Team Azel is clearly the best. But obviously, we still have a tournament to play, and we could see if Azel's leadership decisions end up sinking the team instead of carrying it. That could still happen.
It probably will happen.
So, all right, it's been a fun broadcast. We've been here for a bit longer than we planned to be, perhaps, but we did manage to get all 16 draft picks on stream. We've got a match on CTF Match Spotlight coming up in 20 minutes. It's going to be Delta Force against the Crusaders. Should be a very interesting matchup and a rematch of what was one of the closest games in the already very competitive group stage of the 2020 CTF tournament. So that'll be coming up soon, as will all of the games of our tournament. We're going to have games starting on potentially as soon as the 30th of June, and the tournament will run at least until July 16th. So we've got a pretty exciting few weeks ahead. We're going to have games for this tournament streamed by CTF Match Spotlight fairly consistently, we would hope. It's going to be a pretty cool undertaking. We're all excited here, and we hope you're just as excited as the rest of us for this tournament. Looks to be an exciting few weeks here on CTF, and we hope to have you around for it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for joining us for this long draft stream.
Yeah, we're all a little worn out, but nothing like Delta Force versus the Crusaders to pick everyone back up. So hope to see you there.